Okay, folks, gonna do finishing up some more maintenance. We're doing some deck stuff today. I want to show you guys how to sharpen some blades. I've got a nice lift here. So what this does is it actually has kind of a winch mounted to the top of it here, and it slides in under the front tires. Got a couple of pins that I'm going to put in place here. They actually sell these in a lot of different farm stores, or we actually got ours through our local small engine shop. And they work great for being able to pick up the front end, especially on these zero-turn models like this. It's a much safer alternative than having a floor jack underneath it, or just even trying to reach in underneath it here. So I'm going to lift this thing up. You notice that it works pretty easy, just like a winch. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, my tires are kind of set in here. They're not going to go anywhere. This thing has a lock, and it has a release here as well. That way I can lower this back down slowly, so that's good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get set up here to do my next move, because I'm actually going to get up here underneath the deck, and we're going to remove these blades to be able to sharpen them, okay? Alright folks, here we go hanging out underneath this lawnmower here together. I've got a nice 3/4 inch size ratchet, so that's the drive size on this, right? And I like it just because I've got a very long handle on there. If you've got a breaker bar, something in a 1/2 inch variety would work just as well. If you got an impact gun that's pneumatic, that would work too. And then I've just got a 2x4 here, just a scrap piece of wood. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my board and I'm going to wedge it. It's got some of these little pieces that kind of guide some of that grass out of here. And I'm going to get that blade wedged up against it. And then I'm going to, with my other hand, I'm going to take my wrench and I'm going to put up there, make sure it's all the way on that nut and start to apply pressure to that. And then I'm going to turn, make sure I'm going lefty-loosey on this. Some of these may have right-hand threads. Have to check your owner's manual on that just to see. And we're just going to turn until we get that off of there. Okay, this particular deck has 3 blades all the way across, so I'm going to do that on each one of these. I'll probably get in here with a putty knife and scrape down a little bit of this grass. It actually looks pretty decently clean. I do try to blow out all the grass, all the extra grass and such, whenever I can in between mowing. I'll set my bolt right down here, and I'm just going to repeat those steps on all 3 of these. Alright, here's our next step. I've got all 3 blades off. I've got them laid out here on a flat bench just because one of the things that you want to check, you want to make sure that this is still flat. This is our cutting edge right here, and then this kind of just turns up to be able to throw that grass up, so that way you can go through and cut that again. Sometimes you'll see a mulching blade, and that is one that actually has a piece raised up here. These are not mulching blades, these are just your standard blades, but that raised up piece will then catch that grass as it gets thrown up by the back of this blade. And then cut it a second time. That way it kind of, like it says, mulches it up and makes that even smaller particles to go back down to the ground. The main thing that we want to look at here, we want to make sure that this is nice and flat where this cutting surface is all the way. And this blade looks pretty good. There's a bit here back and forth, but you know what? That's not bad at all. Same thing here. And same thing here. If you happen to hit something like maybe a large wood or a piece of rebar or something like that, something metal in the ground, that may bend one of these, and that's when you need to just replace that blade. Okay? So I've got a bench grinder right here. I've got a grinding blade on one side, just a wire wheel on the other side to clean things up. So what I'm going to want to do on this cutting side, there's the flat side, and these blades actually say the grass side on there. That's the side that I want to just be flat. Okay? What I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to create this sharpened edge right here this way. And I'm going to do that with this grinding stone on here as it moves around. Now, you want to make sure that you don't stay in one place for very long, because that can create too much heat. And then as that heat goes too high on this blade, that actually loses the temper of the blade. Now, it's not going to throw a fit. It's going to make it softer metal, and then it's going to not hold its edge as good. We can see these are very, very dull, All right, I think I've used these all season. I probably should have sharpened these up at least halfway through, and I failed to do that. So we're going to go through and get this good and sharpened up. This inside edge is actually quite a bit better than what this outside is. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to turn this on, make sure it gets up to full speed. I've got my safety glasses on because there's definitely going to be some metal that could be coming around here. This may get a little noisy. I've also got a guard right here that is going to keep me kind of guarded there. All right, so here we go. I've got a rest here that I'm going to put this on, and I'm just going to keep on going back and forth just to keep that edge going. Stop there a moment, take a look at how we're doing. So we're beginning to get there, but I'm trying to also straighten out. I've got like some high spots right here and back in here. I'm trying to level that out with some of our low spots. That's probably where it's hit something along the way. Just trying to level that all out and make that nice and straight if we can. But this is a process, so we're going to just take that a little ways at a time, and we'll get there, all right? We'll tune back in here in just a second. All right, got everything sharpened up here. See, we got a nice edge on there. You know, you just got to take your time. As you can see, this is a very messy process because we're removing a lot of material and stuff. One of the things, because we are removing so much material, you always want to take a screwdriver afterwards and just make sure that this thing does kind of still sit level. You know, you want it to be pretty close. You don't want it to have something dramatic. If you've got one side that's really drooping like this, that means you've taken a lot more material off of one side than the other. And that may be time to replace that blade as well. Because you don't want to have those on balance. That's a lot of work on that spindle, because remember, there's bearings up inside of that. And if those are off balance, there's going to be a vibration in that deck then. All right, so I'm just going to take these and get set up to put these back on and reinstall. All right, back up underneath here. I'm going to go ahead and get my first blade. You just want to make sure that that flat side, these blades are really nice, it says grass side down. You want to make sure that that is down there. I've had some students in the past not pay attention to that, and they've wound up putting those on backwards. That's definitely a big mistake. We don't want to have that. It's not going to mow quite properly that way. All right, so I'm just going to reinstall that. I'm putting my bolt in hand tight first, just to make sure that I don't cross thread that. These bolts do go on this particular mower. They do go on. They are a right hand thread, so a standard type thread. So I'm going to make sure that I'm flip back around here to the correct direction on my wrench. And then just like what I did before, loosening them, I'm going to do the same thing to tighten them. I'm just going to wedge my 2x4 up in here, and then I'm going to tighten these up. Okay, so check your manual to see what your torque spec is on these. I'll come back through with a torque wrench and make sure of this. Off my head, I am thinking it is about 130 foot-pounds on these, so it's quite heavy duty. So you're going to need quite a large torque wrench to get that done. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that process all the way across here on all three, and that wraps us up. Like I said, I may take a putty knife, scrape some of this down just to clean that up, but overall we're looking good. All right, thanks for your time.